And I've been, molested growing up by several different people. One of the perpetrators was a woman. I was attacked and left on the street. I didn't know how I made it to the hospital, how I made it home. When I was in the hospital, I had to follow up with my primary care. I'm asking for a rape kit. I'm asking to be tested. No one ever did. I'm dealing with the victim's advocate, and so she needed a release for my medical records. And Tamara, I tell you, as soon as she got my medical and she saw my history, things changed.
Yeah.
Things changed.
We go through life not knowing what others are going through. We walk by them daily, not able to fathom the depths of the struggle they face. I am Tamara Gordon, and this is Tea with My Sweet Gratitude, a safe space where I'll be having unfiltered conversation with ordinary people with incredible stories and life experiences. Not only will I be speaking with others while they share their story, I am privileged to share my remarkable story of motherhood, wrongful imprisonment, and the wisdom I've gained and the journey to self-love. So stay tuned to this channel and let today's conversation begin. Sweet gratitude shining down on me. Welcome to Tea with My Sweet Gratitude. I am your host, Tamara Gordon, and today I'm joined by Robin Gibson, a mother, a daughter, a friend, a survivor of betrayal, a phenomenal woman. Robin, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
How are you?
I'm good.
I like your hair. You look really nice.
Thank you. You look beautiful as well, as always.
Thank you. And don't be nervous. It's just me. It's just little old me you're talking to.
Okay.
The camera's not here, so we're not going to think about them.
Absolutely.
We're fine.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about how you grew up before we dive into your powerful story.
Well, I grew up, and my mom was a Christian, or is a Christian, she's still living, and my dad, he was an alcoholic. So a lot of, my mom loving, nurturing, caring. My father was the disciplinarian. He would belittle us. Sometimes people think physical abuse, but it was verbal abuse. If we made a mistake, he would often tell us, we could do nothing right. Call us names. So growing up, people always think if you grew up in a two-family home, like that's the ideal. It's not always the case. My mom and my dad married together, but it was not the case. My dad was like a tyrant, and as I was thinking, like my mom was saved. I'm like, saved from what? It was not the ideal home that
that you would want to grow up in.
That you would want to grow up in, absolutely. But later in life, my dad did give his life to Christ, and it was a difference. But when you're a kid and you need that nurture, you need the love from your parents, from your dad. I didn't have that growing up, which led me. I was a teenage mom, but I was looking for love. I met a guy, and he told me how pretty I was, and this, and one thing led to another, and I ended up becoming pregnant at 15. I gave birth to my first child when I was 16, a week after I turned 16 years old.
Oh, wow.
And, that started my journey, just living. And, I had my second child when I was 20. But still looking, during my lifetime, I was promiscuous, turned to drugs, turned to alcohol, searching for something that was in none of those things that
that you didn't have.
That I didn't have, that I was dealing with.
That you was lacking.
Yes.
That's why I said it's important how you raise your children.
It is.
It really is.
It is.
Whether you're a single mother, whether it's two in the house, it's very important.
Yes.
That you raise them, because they'll go look for something that they don't have.
Absolutely. Yes.
I'm so sorry.
No, then I think I was sorry, but I think now, Lord, it was for a reason. Not that you caused this, but as I was just thinking, if it's to help someone, I've been molested growing up by several different people. One of the perpetrators was a woman, so it was just as I gotten older and started going to church and when you read about not committing fornication. But I'm saying to myself, why is that so prevalent when people can take your body if they want to? You saying no, or if you're innocent, or if you're a child, but you have people taking your
They're
body.
supposed to protect you.
So what is it so I couldn't understand about the sexual? Why, but
Why you couldn't give it willingly, you mean?
Yes.
But somebody could take it force.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
That's a double standard, really.
So, yes.
If you think about it.
So,
so these grown-up were going to church that we're supposed to be learning from.
Yeah, so it was a lot of confusion, even after I gave my life to Christ. He was my savior, but he wasn't the Lord over my life. I still lived how I wanted to live. I, was still promiscuous, still having sex and having fun, so to speak, worldly. And it was me.
Yeah, you were living your life.
I was living my life thinking, I think I expected, not to have any, you get saved, you give your life to Christ, you become a believer, and not to have issues or problems. But I learned, did I learn? You do. But it's still what you don't have to expect the same outcome as the world.
And I think when we give our life to Christ sometimes, the problem becomes bigger.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't see that then.
And we struggle with more things as well.
Yes.
Because I've learned the more the anointing come on you, the things that are your misfortune become anointing. And those things get heightened. So if you're a person who like to have sex a lot, that become anointing.
Yeah.
And it get worse.
Yes. The urges, yes.
Yeah.
When you tell yourself that it's something that you're not supposed to do or you can't have, it's like the more you want to, whatever that particular
the more you
thing
feel
is.
for it.
Yes. But fast forward a little, I end up meeting in this lifestyle, meeting a gentleman, and I call him a gentleman, but I was walking in my neighborhood and I was introduced to him by a mutual friend, and we talked for a bit, and phone conversations, and he was going through some things. He had just lost his sister, and shortly after he lost his mom, and so he was telling me that he hasn't been to church since his mom passed away. And I was saying, I let him know I go to church, and he seemed very excited, interested. So he asked, can he fellowship with me? And I'm like, of course. So now, this is a check off my list. He likes to go to church.
That want to fellowship with you.
You're not asking. He asks, and it's not forced. So, he went to church with me a couple of Sundays, and, after church, after coming with me to church, and we were talking about the Lord, and he's saying how he enjoyed the sermon, and he invited me over for dinner, and it was vice versa. I went to dinner to his house, and he came to my house, and so I'm thinking everything is going well. He seemed nice. He had a decent job. But only to come to find out, he wasn't what I was thinking.
Yeah.
He wasn't what I was thinking. He was actually a predator, and I guess waiting for the right time to strike, and it was in February, and this is where it gets a little hazy for me, but I seem like I could remember him calling me, saying something about Valentines Day, and I was excited, I don't know what the gift was, but in my mind, it's like he had a gift for me for Valentine's Day. So I went to pick up the gift, and from that point, I really don't remember. I don't remember. I ended up in the hospital, but how I got there, what happened.
So, for the viewers that don't know the story, we're referring to Robin met a gentleman, as you hear her say, and Robin was beaten and left to die after she was assaulted by this gentleman. And it was bad. She was left in the streets of Amden, and it was a wicked attack on her life. She could have died.
So, like Tamara was saying, I was attacked and left on the street. I didn't know how I made it to the hospital, how I made it home. Maybe a few days after, you get your release papers, and so I'm looking and I see the ER nurse. So I called and I'm like, why? What? I knew why I was in hospital from the way my face was disfigured terribly, and so I knew something, but I didn't know what the something was, and so she told me that I was found on the street wandering by off-duty Hamden cop, and he called the ambulance, and I was taken to the emergency room, and she had given me his contact information, and she told me, like, a medical cab had brought me home, and but trying to piece together, like, how did I end up in the hospital? What happened? And that was the mystery for the what happened, what led me to that, and with so the first person to see me was my granddaughter. That's my regret, having my granddaughter witness.
Why it was a regret? Because of how you look. Because I saw those pictures and it was.
Yes.
It's rough.
Yes.
How does it affect her though?
She's very protective over me, so just the distrust, the shock, it just again another emotional roller coaster. The fear, my lifestyle. I think that's one of the things that not just my granddaughter, my family, my sisters, my children. The worry. It's like it was a reverse road. They had to worry about mom, grandma, or Nene, as my grandkids call me. Is she okay when she go out? And that shouldn't be a place for children.
For anyone.
But so, and I put them there, but all the while
You didn't put them there.
No, put the concern just with my life.
You didn't do
I
it.
did. I feel like I did.
Don't feel guilty for something somebody did to you, Robin.
Not for his attack, but just the way I was living. When I go out, is she okay? What is she involved in? What is she doing? Yeah. It was more of that. And so when my granddaughter. So now I'm learning because, I don't know, but so she calls her mom, and then, I guess they collaborate when my daughter collaborate with the police, and they kind of backtrack, get my phone and see like the call log, the call history, and that's how they was led to the person that, was arrested for this attack. So the police just went to question him, and when they went, he had blood on his shirt, circumstantial evidence, scratches on his neck, I think they said bruises on his or blood on his hands. So now he becomes a person of interest, and so again, learning about this situation, and one of my family was telling me, so when I go home. When they see me, like they were telling me all of how my knuckles was bruised and bloody and sores, and
because you've been fighting back.
Yes, fighting back. My fingernails, the dirt, skin, blood under my nails, and now when I was in the hospital, or not, excuse me, when I was in the hospital, when I finally I had to follow up with my primary care. I'm asking for a rape kit. I'm asking to be tested. No one ever did. So that makes me angry all over again because now how I'm being treated by people that are here to help me professionally. It's like when the person was arrested and he was charged with assault in the second degree, and I'm dealing with the victim's advocate, and so she needed a release for my medical records. And Tamara, I tell you, as soon as she got my medical and she saw my history, things changed.
Yeah.
Things changed.
I'm Tamara Gordon, and we are inviting you to be a part of our growing community of strong, resilient women. Follow us on our YouTube and TikTok channel at Tea with My Sweet Gratitude. And don't forget to listen to us on all major audio platforms at Tea with My Sweet Gratitude. Subscribe, and you will never miss an episode of empowering story and healing wisdom. So join me with a cup of tea as we embark on this journey of gratitude, healing, and hope together. Thank you. So you were victimized twice?
Twice, 3 times, 4 times.
Yeah.
Over and over again. And over again.
By the system.
Yes.
So this idiot did what he did to you.
Yes.
And then the system do it again.
Yes.
Just because you have prior drug history.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
It's like they look at me, I felt, as, maybe she was doing something to cause this. Maybe it really wasn't an attack. And so it wasn't, the communication was minimal. His charges were, he made a plea deal. So it went from second degree assault. I don't even remember. I can't even recall so he got like a slap on the wrist. He had to do anger management, got some probation. I'm like, are you serious? I think it should be attempted murder. Like, I could have died. I'm thinking, like, how could someone be so angry? What tool could he have used to batter me like that? And just going along the way, I've learned so much. Like, I in Connecticut, there's a law, the victim impact. It is by right. I have a right to make a victim impact statement. I wasn't given that. I wasn't asked that. Everything that was happening with this gentleman, it happened, and then the victim advocate will call me. Not, Robin, how do you feel about this? Robin, this is what, even if they had to reduce the charge just to get an arrest on his record, they never consulted with me first. It was done, and then I was informed. And so, it was who can you turn to?
There was no one.
No one.
No one. And the system is there to help you.
So you think.
Well, you see, I know firsthand that it didn't help me.
Yes.
I do know my story, and so I have just awful distaste in my mouth for them.
Yes.
Because it's not there to help you at all.
No.
But here you are with the same issue. This time, you're the victim. And being victimized by the system again and again and again and again
and again,
just because.
Yes.
And I don't mean to sound racist, and because I'm not a racist person, but if it wasn't a sister that it happened to, whether she was high on crack cocaine from she was 2 years old, if somebody looked through her window, not even touched her, it would have been a rape charge.
Yes. Yes.
But here you are, beaten and left to die.
Yes.
In the streets, and you're victimized by the system. I remember one of the things that triggered me is the charge that he gets, second degree.
Yes.
And they get a few years.
Yes.
That make me so angry. How did that make you feel, Robin? Like when
I don't even think he did time, Tamara. I think I don't know if he bonded out or not because I was not informed. But I think when everything was over, it was time served. He had probation, and he did anger management. Because
anger management.
Yes, he had to
for rape.
Yes, he had to take some anger management courses, and that was the extent of it. So I don't think the whole process from the incident happened in 2022, and maybe by maybe sometime in 2023, everything was done. Everything was done because I shared with you also that I saw
You
him.
ran into him.
Yes, he saw me. He,
And he approached you.
approached me.
Can you
Yes,
manage that?
approached me.
Like, no plan put in place to keep him away from you.
Exactly.
Bec-
Exactly. Nothing. And he walks in the. I'm in the store. I'm waiting for my friend to make his purchase, and hear this loud, boisterous voice comes around the corner calling me names, saying, "There go that stupid. There go that crazy," and everyone looking, and thank God the person was there because he had to come in between us and tell, leave her alone. She doesn't have anything to say to you. Could I? That was such a horrific moment. It just started everything all over again.
I remember.
I'm having nightmares. It was horrible. And again, so who can I call? Who is there to, intervene, so to speak? And
I remember you shared with me like what you were going through in that time and you locked away, but how hard it was for you to even walk on the streets.
yes, walk on the street,
Yeah.
get out of bed, deal with people. I didn't trust, and trust is still something I'm working on. But I'm always looking over my shoulder. I see a guy on the street, and I'm like, oh my Lord, if he say hi to me and I don't speak back, is he gonna attack me? Would I offend him? Would he want to do something to me? I dealt with that. Oh my goodness. Still deal with it. I became hyper vigilant. I'm always looking. It was to the point I was doing therapy, and it was a lady in the therapy, not my
That was
therapist, but I'm like so just the anxiety, just this. I can't even explain it. So the lady was trying to help me. Because of the attack, I have physical pain. So she was trying to connect me. So now my brain is thinking, oh my God, I think she liked me. I think if I don't respond, just these thoughts in my brain. And I'm like, she's just being nice, helping.
People don't understand that the level of PTSD that comes with these things.
Yes.
Whether it's whatever your trauma is, whether it's depression, prison, whatever it is, it's hard to trust.
It is very hard.
It's hard to trust.
To trust.
I have my own drawbacks of going into the stores because of that.
Yes.
And there was a time I couldn't walk past a white person.
Oh my.
And I still have trouble doing that
Yes.
to a level right now. I'm doing a little bit better, but it's hard.
Yes, it is.
It's hard.
It
And,
is.
so I could imagine. And my body wasn't violated. Nobody pinned me down and take me. That happened to you.
Yes.
It's hard to trust. Robin, I'm glad you're surviving.
By the grace of God,
Yeah.
he's awesome. One of the things that during this journey, I lost my job with this situation. Been at my job for over 18 years and lost my job. And I'm fighting. I'm calling anybody that will listen, that can direct me, that can lead me. And again, no help. I started out with my older person, to the mayor, to the attorney general, to the senator, to the Congress, and oh, this is not federal. Oh, we don't deal with private. This is not our area, and so now I even spoke to like attorneys. So now I dealt with depression. I'm feeling now rejection. So it really is this one incident. It was like a domino effect. It just started one thing, and it was like just a trigger. And so now I'm going through all of this. I can remember, like I'm done. I felt overwhelmed. I didn't feel like I had the courage, the strength to live. I drew my blinds. I laid on my chair, and I'm like,
This is it.
this is it. This is it. I don't know. I can't tell you how long I've been. I stopped eating. I laid there for weeks.
Just
Didn't
wanted to
bathe,
die.
didn't
Yeah.
comb my hair, no hygiene. And, and I was just ready to succumb because it felt like life was too challenging. It was too difficult. It was too overwhelming. And one day, as I'm laying there, I hear the Lord say, "Get up, eat something or you're going to die. Get up, eat something or you're going to die." So finally I got up. I had nothing in my refrigerator to eat. I found a couple of oranges, a couple of halos. I ate that and I drank a glass of water. And I had my phone on vibrate. I didn't turn my phone off because at the same token, my mom, her health wasn't that good. She was going through some issues. So if my sister or someone called, I wanted to be able to get that. But I put it on vibrate because I didn't want to get the ring, didn't want to talk to anyone. So I'm in the kitchen and my phone rang. And I don't know, the terminology, my kids will say boink a call. So I'm trying to hang the phone up, but I end up answering. And on the phone, the lady, she was like, "Robin." I'm like, hesitantly, I don't know. Yeah. She just started talking about, going on for about 15 minutes, talking about God and this and that. And I said, that was nothing but the Lord. And before she recognized, I couldn't really get a word in edgewise that she had the wrong person. And from there, she invited me to her church, joined the prayer line. But, the Lord knows what we need. When we need it, because I seriously, I was just I was ready. I was just, it just felt like too much.
Yeah.
It felt like too much to have to deal with and then to deal with on my own. That I think was the most, to deal with it on my own. Your family say they there, but
Yeah.
it's difficult.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
Who do you turn to?
Who do you turn to? Who do you turn to? But in the midst, God was with me.
Yeah.
Not-
He sent a phone call.
Yes.
From a stranger.
From a stranger. Yes. Yes.
And that's
we're
how
still
you-
connected today.
Amen.
Yes.
Does she know that she saved you?
This is my first time really involved. No, so I never really.
You never talked to her?
Not in depth. I call her my
wow.
angel, but I never went into detail about just, I had my own church home, but I stopped going. One reason was the way I go to church was where the street I had to travel down that the officer found me. So it was too much. And I stopped going. I was afraid to come out. I was afraid to interact, and I didn't blame the Lord, but I really could not comprehend. I could not wrap my mind around what happened, why, So I had a lot of things that I was dealing with, on my own. I allowed that time for the enemy not just to build a brick wall to isolate me, to separate me, but he was building an enclosure so it could just be him and I, and he could just, oh, your molestation, your rejection, your dad put you down, you're not good, you had 2 children, you're by yourself, you were, and he was just the only voice that I was hearing at that time. So he was trying to accomplish his goal to kill, steal, and destroy.
That's his job?
Yes. And he was working overtime. I felt like, but, God said not so. He said not so. I have a plan for her. And so through the rejection, through the depression, through the molestation, through the abuse, I'm still here.
This episode of Tea with My Sweet Gratitude is sponsored by My Sweet Gratitude Cosmetics, your go-to for affordable luxury that celebrates your healing journey. With quality handmade products made with rich, creamy, moisturizing ingredients and a special customized blend of herbs that will leave you looking, smelling, and feeling absolutely beautiful. As a listener of Tea with My Sweet Gratitude podcast, you could enjoy a 10% discount by using code T at checkout. Visit our website at mysweetgratitude.com. Thank you for supporting Tea with My Sweet Gratitude. We will see you soon. Robin, I want to ask this question, like, how does what you've been through impact your search even for love now? What does that look like? Because No, I can imagine.
I don't think at this point I'm ready because still in my mind, someone, you always have an ulterior motive. It's difficult for me to believe that you can be genuinely kind and caring and not want something in return. And if it's whatever it is that the person may want, if it's a no, at what cost to me? So I'm one day, I desire that, but I think I'm still working on healing some of the
Yeah.
things that I'm going through.
Because you've been through a lot, but what does
Yes.
healing look like now for you?
Well, I think first and foremost, I before this happened, I think I was I don't, if I want to say trusting, I don't know, but I think that I want to always give someone the benefit of the doubt. I'm not that person any longer. My guard is up, and but I think this situation allowed me to lean on the Lord more. Don't make decisions in my own strength. I need His guidance. I need His help, and that's where I feel my protection.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So I think going through this when I told you Jesus is my Savior, but He was not the Lord of my life. I had a job. I was making decent money. So, I had money in the bank. If I wanted to go on a trip, if I want, I can do, I didn't inquire, to the Lord for those things. But baby, when the money started dwindling and it was time to pay the mortgage, Lord, now it became how are we going to pay this mortgage? How are we going to, but, just through the prayer line, the staying in the Word, and I've always read, but now the scriptures are coming back, forefront. The Lord is my shepherd; I shall not want.
Yeah.
So a shepherd, he takes care of his flock.
Yeah.
He feeds them, he protects them. So I didn't have to. It's coming back to me.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about that. I remember he was telling me to give tithe $100. I'm like, I can't do that. I only got a couple of $100 left. You want me to give over and over and over. So finally, I'm at the bank, and before I can say I'm asking for a bank check for the $100, Tamara, not even a week later, it came back 100-fold. That's how awesome.
Yeah.
That's how awesome. But going through, I didn't see His hand with me, but when I could step back and look, He was there. He was there building my faith, building my trust in Him. So.
You're incredible. You have an incredible, brave story, Robin. How does that attack affect your views now?
Towards people or?
Towards people.
I'm a lot more leery, with people, with individuals. It's you have your guard up. You definitely have your guard up. Not even with strangers per se, but even now for me, even like my family, my children, I'm questioning. Like is it some way that whatever that that they if they want to harm me, if they want to hurt me, like, do they really truly love me? Is there a secret behind, or something that they're asking me? Is it what a motive? That's the word I'm looking for. Is there a motive? And it's draining for me because like just with everyone that I encounter, it's a challenge. Yeah. It's a challenge. It's a challenge to see beyond my fears and not or my incident, and so I'm laying it before the Lord, and asking Him to help me, and I share with you just before even going out. It's like a building up. You get the pit in your stomach, the anxiety.
Yeah, because for me personally, I don't know anybody that suffer what we suffer. Like for real, because if you talk to somebody that's not been there, they can't identify
No.
how difficult it is to get two things in a grocery store. And that should be easy because a lot of times ladies like to shop
Yes.
and you would want to do those things.
Yes.
And until when I was talking to you about that, and I was so glad, like not glad that you've been there, but glad that you could identify with me, like, because I would talk about that and my therapist would understand that and all of them really would and help me to go in there. But when you're talking to people that's not been there, it's hard. They don't
Yes.
get it. Like, your life stop.
It
Like,
does.
my trauma changed my life.
Yes.
And I can't hold not even a regular job. I cannot because I'm suffering.
People don't quite understand. If they haven't experienced, they don't understand it. It's difficult. You go to the store, and if I'm in there for a prolonged period of time, it's like I'm panting. The breathing becomes difficult. I'm like, oh my goodness. There's been times I'm shopping, started. I had to leave my cart, so I can get out of.
And go.
this-
I don't know if you go in your car and cry, but I've done that a lot of
I
times.
go, I lock my door, I'm looking, I'm like, thank you, just
Yeah.
it really changes your life.
Yeah.
It changes your life. It does, and I'm grateful, to encounter a beautiful woman as yourself. That encourage. Like before, I said, coming into contact with you, I kept this bottled up.
I know.
I didn't want to.
remember.
I didn't want to share. I was ashamed. I blamed myself a lot, for the situation, and but you encouraging me. I'm grateful. I'm grateful to be here.
I'm honored.
I'm grateful
honored
to
to
be
know
here.
you. And so it takes a lot of strength. It's
Yes.
hard to share your story because the people, they're so mean and wicked sometimes and they're
Yes.
so judgmental.
Oh.
So it's hard for us to come and talk about. And that's why I built this platform, to share my story,
Yes.
because it changed my life. It changed my whole family life. And I'm sure there's people who are going through that out there. And if it's just one person you reach with your story. And I know it
Absolutely.
was extremely hard for you to even talk about it. But, our story is not meant to die with us.
Yes.
And sometimes these stories happen and it's not for us, it's to heal others. And it's sad that it have to happen to us and we're the example for it.
Absolutely.
And I didn't want to be an example for any story that hurt me like that, like Slime and Dog. And I'm sure you did not want that as well. But I'm honored that you're here.
Thank you. I'm
And if
honored
you
to
have
be here.
any advice to give to any ladies that's going to come in contact with this video, what would it be to them?
I would like to encourage any woman, no matter what it is you're going through, stay the course. Keep your eyes focused on the Lord. Keep your faith. I will say continue to pray and trust God. He said that He will never leave you nor forsake you. So that's what's been bringing me through, my faith in the Lord.
What if I told you that your darkest trauma are the gateways to the deepest form of self-hate, but through it you can find healing? Would you believe me? I am Tamara Gordon, and I help women through their most severe challenges with the power of empathy and sweet gratitude. As a wrongful convicted woman, I survived prison only to find my greatest calling to date. After mentoring and ministering to hundreds of women behind bars, I realized that there are 3 critical things my dear sisters need to become whole: love, safety, and most of all, community. Join me and hundreds of other women on this challenge. I will send you 1 sample email each day with 1 action to take, and if you stick with me, I guarantee you your life will change. The Healing Heart Challenges is a safe place for women who are determined to reclaim their position at their homes and community. Join me today and let this transformation begin. You know, you're living through this, Robin. I have to ask, what's giving you joy today? Because you certainly do not look like what you've been through.
That's giving me joy. I
You
don't
really
look,
don't.
Really, I'm
Like-
telling you, Tamara. I've discovered some new pictures, and I'm looking at my face and the disconfiguration, and I'm like, oh,
You mean worse than the one that you sent to me?
yes.
Oh God, I don't think I want to see
yes,
that.
and I don't, and I thank God. You know, even with the brokenness, like I for over a year, you know, just like my whole left side, it was painful from my shoulder down, like just the whole left side, very difficult for me to use. And even some of the therapy that I've talked to couldn't comprehend, couldn't understand. But I'm not where I was a year ago, 6 months ago, 3 months ago.
Yeah.
And I really do count it. I have to give God all the glory. I think about, I really could have been dead. I could have been dead, but God said not so. And I'm grateful. That brings me joy.
When you sent those pictures to me and said we could use them, I said, oh God. It messed up my brain because I'm saying, how do we show this? Because Robin, like, we talk about it and I know the story and it's painful on its own. When I saw those pictures, really, I said, God, you're a good God.
Yes.
Because I can't believe that you sit here and your face does not.
Yes.
It was awful.
Yes. One of my prayers, Tamara, I asked the Lord for a speedy recovery. I asked him for a speedy recovery, and I tell you, he honored that. He honored that, and I'm grateful. When I look at the picture, I'm like, what could have done a monster?
He's an awful person.
Yes.
He's not a man.
Yes.
He's
Could
really.
yes. Yes.
He's an untamed thing.
Yes.
Untamed animal. That's what he is. Because no person should do that to another human being.
Yes. And I'm like, what
And
device?
he's walking around
free. You know, and I don't know if I was the first person. You know, that's
or if he do it after that, because he get away free.
Exactly. What happened? You know, so that's another. I want to encourage women: don't keep silent. Don't keep silent. You know, it unfortunately, and I pray it's not the case. You know, the victim seemed like I was the victim, but the perpetrator seemed like he had more rights than me. You know, and
they get to do whatever and get away with it.
And get away with it.
And you get to deal with it.
Yes, not even only when I was going through this agency to try to get some help, you know, and then they needed the police record. The police, you know, his record is sealed. I couldn't pull the police report. They said, only thing we can give you is the statements you made. I said, I made no statements because I didn't know, I don't know what happened. So how could I make a statement? So but thank God I had a police report from originally. I'm like, how another way this man is protected?
I want to touch on one thing before we close, and I just want to thank God that even through that awful thing, you're now many years clean of the drugs, and that is really a good thing. So you're clean. So that's amazing, Robin. Congratulations.
To God be the glory.
You know, so even though that was such an awful thing that happened, it allows you to turn that corner.
Yes.
It's only God.
Only God.
So my advice to you ladies, anyone, gentlemen too, because men do get raped as well. If it happened to you, don't have to be silent.
Yes.
And your story is important to someone else and important to you too, to heal. Don't just lie down and just want to wither away and try to die. You can live even after those painful memories. And for you ladies and gentlemen too, be careful of who you're choosing as partners.
Yes.
And they come in many different sizes and shape and different strategy. See how it happened to Robin. You want to go to church, so it's a con man. He know how to get her, and she buy into it and
Yes.
see what happened to her. Just be careful.
Absolutely.
Be careful. And watch your children too, who you're bringing around, because you never know. You
Yes.
just never know.
Yes.
Robin, I want to thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being brave. And I know it's a hard story to tell,
Yes.
but I admire your strength and your courage. Thank you so much, Robin.
Thank you. Thank you.
And that's it for today's episode of Tea with My Sweet Gratitude. Thank you for watching. And that's it for today's episode with Tea with My Sweet Gratitude. I hope this conversation brings you a sense of peace and hope. And if you find this episode helpful, please subscribe to this podcast and leave a review. Your feedback helps us reach more women in need of healing.